The sun burned low over the desert, its light spilling across the sands like molten gold, casting shadows that stretched long and lean, as if reaching for the gods. I stood at the edge of the quarry, my hands rough with dust, my chisel worn smooth by days of striking stone. The air was thick with the scent of earth and sweat, the sound of hammers ringing against limestone, a rhythm that pulsed like the heartbeat of the Nile. I was Keti, a stonecutter of Memphis, a boy of 17 summers, and I had never seen anything like the Great Pyramid rising on the plateau of Giza. Its base was a square so perfect it seemed drawn by the hand of Ra himself, its stones fitted with a precision that made my heart ache with wonder, with fear, with something I could not name. We were building a mountain, a stairway to eternity, and I was part of it, though I did not yet understand why. My father had been a stonecutter before me, his hands calloused, his back bent from years of shaping the earth's bones. He had died last season, crushed beneath a slab that slipped from its sled, and I had taken his place, my hands learning the chisel, my heart learning the weight of his absence. I worked beside men who sang as they struck, their voices rising above the dust, their songs older than the river, older than the gods. They sang of Osiris, of his death and rebirth, of the promise that the pharaoh would rise to join him, carried by the pyramid we built. I sang with them, my voice thin but steady, though I wondered if the gods truly listened, if they saw the sweat on our brows, the blood on our hands, the dreams we buried in the stone. The quarry was alive, a hive of men and oxen, of ropes and sleds, of stones that weighed as much as a house. I knelt beside a block, my chisel tracing its edge, my hammer striking with a rhythm I had learned from my father. Each cut was a prayer, each chip a vow, though I did not know to whom I prayed. The overseer, Senan, walked among us, his eyes sharp, his voice a whip that urged us faster, straighter, truer. The pharaoh's soul depends on you, he said, his words heavy with the weight of eternity. Every stone must be perfect, every angle true, or the gods will turn away. I looked at the stone before me, its surface smooth, its edges sharp, and I wondered how a boy like me could carry the soul of a god-king. The pyramid loomed in the distance, its sides rising toward the sky, its peak still a dream, a promise unfulfilled. I had seen it grow, stone by stone, day by day, since I was a child playing in the shadow of my father's work. Now, as a man, I felt its weight, not just in the stones, but in my heart, in the questions that haunted me at night. Why did we build with such care? Why did we measure the stars, align the stones to their paths, carve each block to fit so tightly that not even a blade of grass could slip between? The priest spoke of the pharaoh's journey, of his need for a vessel to carry him to the gods. But I saw the men around me, their hands bleeding, their backs breaking, their lives given to a dream they would never see finished. I paused, my chisel still, my eyes drawn to the horizon, where the Nile flowed, its waters green and slow, a lifeline through the desert. My sister, Merit, worked there, ferrying water to the workers, her laughter bright even in the heat. I saw her now, her basket balanced on her hip, her smile a spark in the dust. She waved to me, her voice calling my name, and I felt a warmth, a tether to the world beyond the stone. Merit believed in the pyramid, in the gods, in the pharaoh who would live forever. She believed in me, though I was only a stone cutter, though my hands were rough, my dreams small. I wanted to ask her why we built, why we poured our lives into this mountain of stone. But I knew her answer would be simple, pure, a faith I envied but could not share. The sun sank lower, the air cooling, the shadows deepening. The workers gathered their tools, their voices softer now, their songs fading into murmurs. I stayed, my hands lingering on the stone, its surface warm from the day's heat, its edges sharp against my fingers. Sinan approached, his shadow falling over me, his eyes narrowing as he studied my work. "It's good." "Katie," he said, his voice grudging but kind. "Your father would be proud." I nodded, my throat tight, my heart heavy with the memory of my father's hands. His voice, his laughter. I wanted to ask Sinan why the stones had to be perfect, why the gods demanded such precision. But I held my silence, fearing the answer, fearing the truth. Night fell, the stars emerging, their light a map that guided our work, our lives, our dreams. I walked to the workers' camp, my steps heavy, my chisel tucked into my belt. Merit was there, her basket empty, her hands wet from the river. She sat by a fire, its glow warm against her face, and I joined her, the heat easing the ache in my bones. "Do you think the gods see us?" I asked, my voice low, my eyes on the flames. She looked at me, her smile soft, her eyes bright with a faith I could not touch. "They see us, Keti," she said. "They see the pyramid, the stones, the love we put into them. They see you." I wanted to believe her, to feel the gods' gaze, to know that my work, my pain, my life meant something. But the pyramid was a mystery, its purpose a shadow I could not grasp. I thought of the priests, their voices chanting in the temple, their hands tracing the stars, their eyes fixed on a future I would never see. I thought of the pharaoh, Khufu, his name a whisper on every tongue, his soul the reason for our labor, our sacrifice. I thought of my father, his body broken, his life given to the stones. I looked at Meret, her face lit by the fire, and I felt a spark, not of faith, but of love, of duty, of the need to keep her safe, to make her proud. The camp was quiet now, the workers sleeping, their dreams filled with stone and stars. I lay beside Meret, the fire's glow fading, the night cool against my skin. I closed my eyes, the rhythm of the hammer still in my ears, the weight of the pyramid still in my heart. I saw it in my mind, its sides smooth, its angles perfect, its peak reaching for the heaven. I saw my father, his hands guiding mine, his voice singing the songs of Osiris. I saw Meret, her laughter a light in the dark, her faith a shield against my doubt. I was Keti, a stone-cutter, a dreamer, a boy who built mountains. And I would carry on, not for the gods, not for the pharaoh, but for her, for us, for the truth that lived in the stones. As I drifted to sleep, the stars above whispered, their light a promise, their paths a guide. The pyramid was more than stone, more than a tomb, more than a dream. It was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch eternity. And though I did not understand why, I knew I would keep building, keep cutting, keep dreaming, until the stones themselves sang our truth. The dawn came too soon, its light creeping over the desert like a thief, stealing the cool of the night and waking the camp with a heat that clung to the skin. I rose from my mat, my body stiff from sleep on the hard earth, my hands still gripping the phantom weight of the chisel. The quarry was stirring, the air filled with the low hum of voices, the clatter of tools, the bellow of oxen as they pulled sleds heavy with stone. I was Keti, stonecutter of Memphis, a boy caught in the shadow of the Great Pyramid, its half-finished form looming over the plateau like a god's unfinished thought. The stones we cut were perfect, their edges sharp as the horizon, their surfaces smooth as the Nile's flow. And yet I wondered, as I did every morning, why such precision mattered, why the gods demanded so much of us. Meret was already at the river, her basket balanced on her hip, her figure small against the vastness of the water. I watched her, my heart lifting at the sight of her braids swinging as she moved, her laughter carrying over the murmurs of the workers. She was my anchor, my reason to keep striking stone, to keep singing the songs of Osiris, even when doubt gnawed at my heart. I joined the other stone cutters, my chisel finding its rhythm, my hammer striking with a force I borrowed from my father's memory. His hands had been steady, his cuts true, and I tried to make mine the same. Though my arms ached, my fingers blistered, my soul questioned the purpose of it all. The quarry was a world of dust and noise, of men whose lives were bound to the stone. I worked beside Anen, a man twice my age, his face lined with years of labor, his eyes sharp with a quiet wisdom. He sang as he cut, his voice low and steady, a song of the stars, of the gods who watched from above. The pyramid is their path, he told me, pausing to wipe the sweat from his brow. Each stone is a step for the pharaoh's soul, each cut a prayer to guide him. I nodded, my chisel still, my heart heavy with the weight of his words. I wanted to believe, to feel the God's presence, but all I felt was the dust in my lungs, the ache in my hands, the absence of my father. The sun climbed higher, its heat a hammer against our backs, and the overseer Sainan walked among us, his voice sharp, his eyes searching for flaws. The stones must be perfect, he said, his words a chant as old as the quarry itself. The gods will not accept less. I looked at the block before me, its edges straight, its surface smooth, and I wondered what flaw could anger a god. What imperfection could deny a pharaoh eternity? I thought of Merit, her faith so bright, so simple, and I envied her certainty, her trust in the priests, in the stars, in the pyramid that rose day by day, stone by stone. A shout broke the rhythm of the quarry, sharp and urgent. From the direction of the sleds, I turned, my heart lurching, and saw a group of workers gathered around a fallen man, his leg pinned beneath a stone that had slipped from its ropes. I ran, my chisel forgotten, my feet kicking up dust, and pushed through the crowd. It was Ptah-hotep, a stonecutter I knew, his face pale, his breath ragged, his eyes wide with pain. I knelt beside him, my hands hovering, useless. As the men worked to lift the stone, Sainan was there, his voice calm but firm, directing the effort, his hands steady as he tied new ropes. The stone shifted. Ptah-hotep cried out, and I saw the blood, bright against the dust, pooling beneath his leg. I stayed with him, my hand on his, my voice soft as I whispered the words my father had taught me. A prayer for strength, for healing. Hold fast, Ptah-hotep, I said, my throat tight, my heart racing with the memory of my father's death. Crushed beneath a stone like this one, Merit appeared, her basket abandoned, her hands carrying water and cloths. She knelt beside me, her fingers gentle as she cleaned the wound, her eyes meeting mine, steady and sure. He'll live, she said, her voice a quiet vow, and I clung to it, as if her faith could make it true. The men lifted the stone. Ptah-hotep was freed, and I helped carry him to the healer's tent, his weight heavy, his pain a mirror of my own. The camp was restless that night, the air thick with whispers, with fear, with questions. No one dared speak aloud. I sat by the fire, Merit beside me, her hands still stained with Ptah-hotep's blood, her face lit by the flames. "Why do we build?" "Keti," she asked, her voice low, her eyes searching mine. "Why do we give our lives to the stones?" I looked at her, my heart aching, my mind a storm of doubt and love. "For the Pharaoh," I said, the words hollow, the answer I had been taught. But she shook her head, her braid swinging, her eyes fierce. "No," she said, "for us, for the gods, for eternity." I wanted to believe her, to feel her faith, but I saw only the blood, the dust, the stones that demanded so much. The stars were bright above, their light a map that guided the priests, the builders, the dreamers. I lay back, the earth cool beneath me, and traced their paths, as my father had taught me. The priest said the pyramid was aligned to the stars, its angles a reflection of their divine order, its stones a path to the heavens. I wondered if the stars cared, if they saw the men who bled, the hands that broke, the hearts that doubted. I thought of Ptah-hotep, his leg shattered, his life spared but forever changed. I thought of my father, his body gone, his spirit perhaps watching from the stars. I thought of Meret, her faith a light I could not touch, but could not turn away from. The camp grew quiet, the fires dying, the workers sleeping under the weight of their labor. I stayed awake, my eyes on the pyramid, its silhouette dark against the starlit sky, its form perfect, unyielding, eternal. I felt its pull, its promise, its mystery. Why did we build with such precision? Why did we carve each stone to fit so tightly, to stand so true? The priests spoke of the Pharaoh's soul, of his journey to the gods, but I saw the men around me, their lives woven into the stones, their dreams buried in the dust. I saw Meret, her hands gentle, her heart fierce, her faith a fire that warmed us all. I rose, my steps soft, and walked to the edge of the camp, where the desert stretched endless and vast. The pyramid stood in the distance, its stones gleaming under the stars, its presence a weight, a wonder, a question. I knelt, my hands touching the sand, my heart touching the sky. I sang, my voice low, the song of Osiris, of death and rebirth, of the promise that we would endure. The pyramid was more than stone, more than a tomb, more than a dream. It was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch the stars. And though I did not understand why, I knew I would keep building, keep cutting, keep dreaming. For Meret, for my father, for the truth that lived in the stones. The desert night was a cloak of stars, their light sharp and unyielding, as if they judged the earth below. I stood at the edge of the workers' camp, my hands still dusted with the quarry's grit, my heart heavy with the memory of Ptahhotep's blood, of Merit's question, of the pyramid that loomed like a silent god on the plateau. The air was cool, scented with the faint tang of the Nile and the smoke of dying fires. I was Keti, stone-cutter of Memphis, a boy who carved mountains for a pharaoh's soul, and yet I felt small, lost in the shadow of a purpose I could not grasp. The great pyramid stones were perfect, their edges fitted with a precision that defied my understanding, and I wondered, as I did every night, why we built with such care, why the gods demanded such truth. The camp was restless, its silence broken by murmurs, by the low voices of men who gathered in small groups, their faces lit by flickering flames. I moved among them, my steps soft, my ears catching fragments of their words: anger, fear, doubt. Ptahhotep's injury had stirred something, a crack in the faith that had held us together. Why do we bleed for the pharaoh? One man whispered, his hands clenched, his eyes dark with exhaustion. Why do we break our backs for stones that will outlive us? I wanted to answer, to offer Merit's faith, her certainty that we built for eternity. But my tongue was heavy, my heart torn between their pain and the pyramid's promise. I found Inanna by a fire, his hands resting on his knees, his gaze fixed on the flames. He was older, wiser, his songs a bridge to the gods, and I hoped he could ease the ache in my chest. I sat beside him, the heat warming my face, the earth cool beneath me. Inanna, I said, my voice low, why do we make the stones so perfect? Why do the gods care for such things? He looked at me, his eyes deep with years, with truths I could not yet see. The gods are order. Keti, he said, his voice steady, like the Nile's flow. The pyramid is their will-made stone, a balance of earth and sky, of life and death. Each cut, each angle, is a vow to keep that balance, to carry the pharaoh to them. His words were heavy, a weight I wanted to carry, but doubt clung to me. Sharp as the chisel in my belt, I thought of my father, his hands guiding mine, his life given to the stones. I thought of Ptahhotep, his leg broken, his dreams shattered. I thought of Merit, her faith a light I could not touch. And if we fail, I asked, my voice barely a whisper, my eyes on the fire. Inanna's hand rested on my shoulder, his touch warm, his voice soft. We do not fail. Keti. The stones are our truth, our offering. The gods see us, even when we cannot see them. I nodded, my throat tight, my heart wanting to believe. But the murmurs of the camp, the pain of the quarry, the mystery of the pyramid held me in their grip. The next day was hotter, the sun a relentless eye, its heat pressing through the dust. through the sweat, through the songs we sang to keep our rhythm. I worked in the quarry, my chisel striking, my hammer heavy, my eyes on the stone before me. Each cut was a prayer, each chip a vow. But my mind wandered, tracing the lines of Onan's words, of Merit's faith, of the worker's anger. Senan moved among us, his voice sharper now, his eyes catching every flaw, every hesitation. "The Pharaoh's soul is in your hands," he said, his words a whip, a plea, a prayer. I looked at the pyramid, its sides rising, its angles perfect, and felt its weight, not just in the stones but in my soul. A stranger came to the quarry that evening, his robes fine, his eyes sharp with a knowledge that made the air feel heavy. He was no worker, no overseer, but a priest, his staff carved with the symbols of Thoth, his voice low and commanding. The men gathered, their tools still, their eyes wary. "I am Imhotep," he said, his name a whisper that carried like a storm. "I am the architect of the Pharaoh's eternity, the keeper of the stars' secrets." I stood at the edge of the crowd, my heart pounding, my hands trembling with the weight of his presence. Imhotep was a legend, a man said to speak with the gods, to draw the pyramid's plans from the heavens themselves. He spoke of the pyramid, of its purpose, of the stars that guided its form. "The Great Pyramid is not a tomb," he said, his voice rising, his eyes burning with the fire I could not name. "It is a bridge, a path for the Pharaoh's soul to join the gods, to become one with the eternal. Its precision is the language of the divine, its stones the words of creation." The men listened, their anger softening, their doubt fading, their hands touching the earth as if to feel the truth of his words. I listened too, my heart swelling, my mind racing with questions I could not voice. Why such precision? Why such sacrifice? Why us? Imhotep's eyes found mine, as if he saw my doubt, my fear, my love for merit, for my father, for the stones. He approached, his staff tapping the ground, his presence a weight that made my breath catch. "You are Katie," he said, his voice soft, his eyes deep with a knowing that chilled me. "Your hand shaped the Pharaoh's path. Your heart carries his eternity." I nodded, my throat dry, my hands clutching my chisel, as if it could anchor me. "Why do we build so perfectly?" I asked, my voice trembling, my heart bared. He smiled, a smile that held the stars. "The Nile, the gods, because the gods demand truth. Katie, because eternity is not one with imperfection." He left me there, his words a fire in my chest, his presence a shadow that lingered. The camp was quiet now, the men returning to their mats, their anger dulled, their faith rekindled. I found Merit by the river, her basket empty, her hands wet with water, her eyes bright with the starlight. "Did you hear him?" she asked, her voice soft, her smile a spark in the dark. I nodded, my heart heavy, my mind a storm. He spoke of eternity. I said, my voice low, my eyes on the pyramid, its silhouette a mystery against the sky. But I don't understand why it costs so much, why we bleed for it. Merit took my hand, her touch warm, her faith a shield. We bleed because we love, Katie, because we believe. I wanted to believe, to feel the God's gaze, to know that our work, our pain, our lives were part of something greater. I looked at the pyramid, its stones perfect, its angles true, its purpose a secret I could not yet touch. I thought of Imhotep, his eyes, his words, his promise of eternity. I thought of my father, his hands, his songs, his life given to the stone. I thought of Merit, her laughter, her faith, her love that held me together. I knelt by the river, my hands touching the water, my heart touching the stars. I sang, my voice soft, the song of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that we would endure. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch the divine. And though I did not understand why, I knew I would keep building for Merit, for the gods, for the truth that lived in the stones. The desert dawn was a whisper of light, its rays threading through the haze of dust that hung over the quarry like a shroud. I woke with Imhotep's words echoing in my mind, his voice a fire that warmed my heart but left my soul restless. The camp stirred around me, the air thick with the scent of barley porridge and the low hum of workers preparing for the day. I was Keti, stonecutter of Memphis, my hands shaped by the chisel, my heart shaped by doubt, by love, by the pyramid that rose on the plateau, its stones fitted with a precision that seemed to mock my understanding. Why did we build so perfectly? Why did the gods demand such truth from men who bled and broke beneath the weight of their will? Merit was at the river, her silhouette sharp against the rising sun, her basket heavy with water for the workers. I watched her, my chest tightening with a love that anchored me, that kept me striking stone even when my body ached and my mind questioned. She saw me and smiled, her eyes bright with a faith I envied, a certainty that our work was holy, that the pyramid was a bridge to the gods. I wanted to run to her, to ask her how she carried such light. But the quarry called, its rhythm of hammers and songs pulling me back to the stone, to the task that defined us. I took my place beside Anan, my chisel finding its mark, my hammer striking with a force I drew from Merit's smile, from my father's memory, from Imhotep's promise of eternity. The quarry was a living thing, its dust a breath, its stones a pulse, its workers a chorus of sweat and song. I cut with care, my hand steady, my eyes tracing the stone's grain, searching for the truth Imhotep had spoken of. Each block was a vow, each edge a prayer. But the weight of the work pressed harder now, the murmurs of unrest growing louder. The men spoke of Ptah-hotep, his leg shattered, his life spared but his strength stolen. They spoke of others, injured or lost, their names a litany of sacrifice. "Why do we give so much?" one man muttered, his chisel still, his eyes dark with anger. I had no answer, only the rhythm of my hammer, the song in my throat, the hope that Merit's faith was enough. Sinan moved among us, his voice sharp, his eyes catching every flaw. "The Pharaoh's soul is in your hands," he said, his words a mantra, a command, a plea. I looked at the pyramid, its sides smoother now, its angles sharper, its form a testament to a precision I could not fathom. The priest said it was aligned to the stars, its base a square so perfect it mirrored the heavens. I wondered if the stars cared, if they saw the men who bled, the hands that broke, the hearts that doubted. I thought of Imhotep, his eyes, his words, his promise that the pyramid was a language, a truth the gods demanded. I wanted to believe, to feel the divine in the stone, but all I felt was the dust, the heat, the ache of my father's absence. Midday brought a pause. The sun too fierce, the air too heavy. I sought shade beneath a canopy, my hands resting, my eyes on the workers who gathered in small groups, their voices low, their faces tense. Anan joined me, his hands stained with dust, his eyes deep with a quiet strength. "They're angry. Keti," he said, his voice low, his gaze on the men. "They see the stone, the blood, the years, and they wonder what it's for." I nodded, my throat tight, my heart torn between their pain and the pyramid's purpose. "And you, Anan?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Do you wonder?" He smiled, a smile that held the Nile, the stars, the gods. "I wonder, but I trust the stones are our truth. Keti, they will speak when we are gone." His words lingered, a seed in my heart, but the unrest grew, a shadow that darkened the camp. That evening, as the sun sank and the stars emerged, a group of workers gathered near the quarry's edge, their voices rising, their hands clenched. I stood at a distance, my heart pounding, my eyes searching for merit, for safety, for answers. Sinan was there, his voice calm but firm, trying to soothe their anger. "The Pharaoh builds for eternity," he said, his hands raised, his eyes pleading. "Your work is holy. your sacrifice scene. But the men shouted, their words sharp, their pain raw. We bleed for a king who does not know our names. One cried, and I felt his words like a blade, cutting through the faith I clung to. I moved closer, my steps hesitant, my heart torn between fear and duty. Merit appeared, her basket empty, her eyes wide with worry. She took my hand, her touch warm, her voice a whisper. Stay back, Ketty, she said, her grip tight. This is not your fight. But I shook my head, my eyes on the men, on Sanan, on the pyramid that stood silent in the distance. It is our fight, I said, my voice low, my heart heavy. We build together, we bleed together. She looked at me, her eyes softening, her faith a light that held me, and I felt a strength I did not know I had, a resolve to stand, to listen, to find the truth. The crowd parted, and Imhotep emerged, his robes catching the starlight, his staff tapping the earth, his presence a quiet storm. The men fell silent, their anger held, their eyes fixed on him. You build for more than a king, he said, his voice clear, his eyes burning with a fire that seemed to come from the stars. You build for the gods, for the balance of Ma'at, for the eternity of Egypt. He raised his staff, pointing to the pyramid, its silhouette a mystery against the sky. Each stone is a word in the language of creation, each angle a vow to the divine. You are not forgotten. Your hands are not unseen. The men listened, their anger softening, their hands unclenching, their eyes searching his face for truth. I listened too, my heart swelling, my mind racing with the weight of his words. Imhotep's eyes found mine as they had before, and he beckoned me forward, his voice soft but commanding. Ketty, he said, come. I stepped forward, my legs trembling, my hands clutching my chisel, Merit's touch a warmth at my side. He placed a hand on my shoulder, his touch heavy, his eyes deep with a knowing that chilled me. You seek the why, he said, his voice a whisper, his words for me alone. Follow me, and you will see. He led me away from the camp, through the quarry, to the base of the pyramid itself. The stones were cool under my feet, their edges sharp, their surfaces smooth, fitted so tightly I could not slip a finger between them. Imhotep stopped, his staff tracing a line in the sand, his eyes on the stars. The pyramid is a map, he said, his voice low, his words heavy with secrets. Its angles mirror the stars, its chambers hold the breath of the gods. Your hands, Keti, shape the path of the pharaoh's soul, but also the soul of Egypt, the soul of us all. I looked at the pyramid, its form perfect, its purpose vast, and felt a spark, not of faith, but of wonder, of a truth I was beginning to touch. We stood there, the stars above, the pyramid beside us, the desert around us, and I felt the weight of eternity, the weight of my Father's hand, Merit's love, Imhotep's vision. I sang, my voice soft, the song of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that we would endure. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch the divine, and though I did not yet understand why, I knew I would keep building, for Merit, for the stars, for the truth that lived in the stones. The stars hung low over Giza, their light a silent chorus that seemed to sing of secrets older than the Nile. I stood at the base of the great pyramid, its stones cool beneath my feet, their edges so precise they seemed to hum with a truth I could not yet grasp. Imhotep was beside me, his staff tracing patterns in the sand, his eyes fixed on the heavens as if he could read their will. I was Keti, stonecutter of Memphis, a boy whose hands shaped the pharaoh's eternity, whose heart carried the weight of doubt, of love, of a father lost to the stones. The pyramid loomed above, its half-finished form a mountain of mystery, its precision a question that burned in my soul. Why did we build so perfectly? Why did the gods demand such sacrifice? Imhotep's voice broke the silence, low and steady, like the river's flow. The pyramid is not just stone. Keti, he said, his eyes still on the stars. It is a vessel, a map, a song. Its angles align with the stars. Its chambers hold the breath of the gods. Its stones carry the soul of Egypt. I listened, my heart pounding, my hands clutching the chisel at my belt, as if it could anchor me to his words. Each cut you make, he continued, each edge you true, is a word in the language of creation, a vow to keep Ma'at, the balance of the world. I looked at the pyramid, its sides smooth, its base a perfect square, and felt a spark, not of faith but of awe, of a purpose vast enough to swallow my doubt. He led me to a narrow passage at the pyramid's base, its entrance hidden by a stone that moved only under his touch. The air inside was cool, heavy with the scent of earth and time. The walls smooth as the stones I cut. My torch cast shadows that danced like spirits, their forms fleeting, their presence eternal. Imhotep walked ahead, his staff tapping the floor, his robes catching the torchlight, his silence a weight that pressed against my chest. I followed, my steps hesitant, my heart torn between fear and wonder. Where are we going? I asked, my voice echoing, my breath catching in the dark. He did not answer, only gestured forward, his eyes deep with a knowing that chilled me. The passage opened into a chamber, its walls carved with symbol stars, rivers, eyes that seemed to glow under the torch's flame. At its center was a stone slab, its surface etched with lines that mirrored the pyramid's angles, its edges sharp as the truth. Imhotep spoke. "This is the heart of the pyramid," he said, his voice soft, his hand resting on the slab. "Here, the pharaoh's soul will rest, guided by the stars, carried by the stones you shape." I approached, my fingers brushing the carvings, their lines cool and precise, their meaning a mystery I longed to unravel. "Why such precision?" I asked, my voice trembling, my heart bared. "Why must every stone be perfect?" Imhotep's eyes met mine, his gaze a fire that burned through my doubt. "Because the gods are truth, Keti. Because eternity demands perfection." The chamber felt alive, its walls pulsing with a rhythm I could not hear but could feel. Like the Nile's flow, like the heartbeat of the earth. I thought of my father, his hand shaping stones, his life given to this dream. I thought of Meret, her faith a light that warmed me, her love a shield that held me. I thought of the workers, their hands bleeding, their voices rising in songs of Osiris, their lives woven into the pyramid stones. Imhotep moved to a corner of the chamber, where a small niche held a clay tablet, its surface inscribed with symbols I did not know. He handed it to me, its weight light but heavy with meaning. "This is the plan," he said, his voice low, his eyes on mine. "The stars, the earth, the gods all are here. In the pyramid. In you." I traced the symbols, their lines sharp, their patterns a map of something greater than stone, greater than me. I saw the angles of the pyramid, the paths of the stars, the flow of the Nile, all woven together in a harmony I could not name. "This is why we build," Imhotep said, his voice a whisper, his hand on my shoulder. "To hold the balance, to keep Ma'at, to make Egypt eternal." I felt a warmth, not from the torch, but from within, a spark of understanding, of purpose. The pyramid was not just a tomb, not just a path for the pharaoh's soul, but a vow, a truth, a song that would sing through the ages, carried by the stone, by the stars, by us. We left the chamber, the passage closing behind us, the night air cool against my skin. The pyramid stood silent, its stones gleaming under the stars, its presence a weight, a wonder, a question answered but not fully understood. Imhotep walked beside me, his staff tapping the sand, his silence a gift, a space for my thoughts to breathe. I thought of the workers, their anger, their pain, their sacrifice. I thought of Ptah-hotep, his leg broken, his life changed but not ended. I thought of Meret, her laughter, her faith, her love that made the stones lighter, the days brighter. I wanted to tell her what I had seen, what I had felt, But the words were heavy, the truth too vast for my tongue. The camp was quiet now, the fires low, the workers sleeping under the weight of their labor. I found Meret by the river, her basket empty, her hands wet with water, her face lit by the starlight. She saw me, her eyes searching mine, her smile soft but curious. "What did you see, Katie?" she asked, her voice a whisper, her hand touching mine. I took her hand, its warmth grounding me, and told her of the chamber, of the slab, of the tablet, of Imhotep's words. "The pyramid is us," I said, my voice breaking, my heart full. "It's our hands, our hearts, our truth. It's Egypt, forever." She nodded, her eyes bright, her faith a mirror of the stars. And I felt her love, her strength, her belief in me, in us, in the gods. The next day was fierce, the sun a hammer, the quarry a furnace of dust and sweat. I worked with a new rhythm, my chisel steady, my hammer true, my heart carrying the chamber's secrets. Imhotep's vision, Meret's love. The workers were quieter now, their anger dulled by Imhotep's words, their hands finding the stone with a renewed purpose. Anand sang beside me, his voice a river, his eyes bright with the faith I was beginning to touch. Sinan watched, his voice softer, his eyes seeing not just the stones but the men who shaped them. I looked at the pyramid, its sides rising, its angles perfect, and felt its pulse, its truth, its eternity. Night fell, the stars a map, the pyramid a dream. I lay beside Meret, the earth cool, the fire warm, her hand in mine. I sang, my voice soft, the song of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that we would endure. The pyramid was more than stone, more than a tomb, more than a dream. It was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch the divine, to hold the balance, to make Egypt eternal. And though I did not fully understand why, I knew I would keep building, keep cutting, keep dreaming, for Meret, for my father, for the truth that lived in the stones, for the stars that watched, silent and eternal. The dawn broke over Giza with a quiet fury, its light spilling across the desert like a river of fire, illuminating the great pyramid's half-finished form, its stones gleaming with a precision that seemed to echo the stars. I stood in the quarry, my chisel in hand, my heart still heavy with the memory of the hidden chamber, of Imhotep's words, of the tablet that held the secrets of eternity. I was Katie, stonecutter of Memphis, a boy whose hands shaped the pharaoh's paths, whose soul carried the weight of doubt, of love, of a truth I was only beginning to touch. The air was thick with dust and the scent of sweat. The rhythm of hammers, a pulse that bound us to the stones, to the gods, to the dream of Egypt's immortality. Merit was at the river, her figure small against the Nile's vastness, her basket swaying as she carried water to the workers. I watched her, my chest tightening with a love that steadied me, that gave my strikes purpose. Even when my mind wrestled with questions, why did we build so perfectly? Why did the gods demand such precision, such sacrifice? Imhotep's words lingered, a fire in my heart. The pyramid was a map, a song, a vow to keep Mahat, the balance of the world. I wanted to believe, to feel the gods' presence in the stones. But the quarry was a crucible of pain, of blood, of lives given to a dream we might never see fulfilled. The workers were restless, their song softer now, their eyes dark with the weight of Ptah-hotep's injury. Of others lost to the stones, I worked beside Enanna, his hands steady, his voice low as he sang of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that our labor was holy. But the murmurs of discontent grew, a shadow that spread through the quarry like a storm. Why do we bleed? One man whispered, his chisel still, his hands clenched. Why do we break for a king who sits in his palace? I felt his words, sharp as a blade, cutting through the faith I was trying to hold. I looked at Enanna, hoping for wisdom. But he only sang, his eyes on the stone, his heart with the gods. Senan moved among us, his voice sharper now, his eyes catching every hesitation, every flaw. The pharaoh's soul depends on you, he said, his words a command, a plea, a prayer. I struck my chisel, my hammer heavy, my mind racing with the memory of the chamber, of the tablet, of Imhotep's promise that our work was eternal. The stone before me was perfect, its edges true, its surface smooth. But I wondered if it was enough, if the gods saw the men who bled, the hands that broke, the hearts that doubted. I thought of Merit, her faith a light I could not touch, her love a strength I could not lose. Midday brought heat that burned through the dust, through the sweat, through the songs we sang to keep our rhythm. I paused, my hands resting, my eyes drawn to the pyramid, its sides rising, its angles sharp, its form a testament to a truth I was beginning to feel. A cry broke the air, sharp and desperate. From the direction of the sleds, I ran, my heart lurching, my feet kicking up dust, and found a group of workers gathered around a fallen boy, his arm caught beneath a stone, his face pale with pain. It was Merit's friend, young Djoser, barely 14, his eyes wide with fear, his breath ragged. I knelt beside him, my hands useless, my voice soft as I whispered the prayer my father had taught me. For strength, for healing. Merit was there, her basket abandoned, her hands trembling as she pressed a cloth to Djoser's wound. her eyes meeting mine, filled with a fear she could not hide. "Help me." "Katie," she said, her voice breaking, her faith shaken. I held Djoser's hand, his grip weak, his pain a mirror of my own fear, my own loss. The workers lifted the stone, their hands steady, their voices silent. And we carried Djoser to the healer's tent, his blood staining the sand, his cries fading into whimpers. Merit stayed with him, her hands gentle, her tears falling, and I stood outside, my heart heavy, my mind a storm of guilt, of anger, of questions I could not answer. The camp was tense that night, the fires low, the air thick with whispers of rebellion, of men who no longer believed in the Pharaoh's dream. I sat by the river, my hands in the water, its coolness a fleeting comfort. Merit joined me, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. "Djoser will live," she said, her voice soft, her hands trembling. "But he'll never work again." I took her hand, its warmth grounding me, and felt her pain, her fear, her love. "Why do we do this?" "Merit?" I asked, my voice low, my eyes on the pyramid, its silhouette dark against the starlit sky. "Why do we give so much?" She looked at me, her eyes fierce, her faith unbroken despite her tears. "Because we are Egypt." "Katie, because the pyramid is us, our soul, our eternity." Her words were a spark, a light in the dark. But the unrest grew, a tide that threatened to break us. I thought of Imhotep, his tablet, his promise that the pyramid was a map, a song, a truth. I thought of the chamber, its walls carved with symbols, its slab a heart that pulsed with the god's will. I wanted to tell Merit, to share the truth I had seen, but the words were heavy, the mystery too vast. Instead, I sang, my voice soft, the song of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that we would endure. Merit sang with me, her voice a thread weaving us together, her love a shield against the night. The next day, Imhotep returned, his presence a quiet storm, his staff tapping the earth, his eyes searching the quarry. The workers gathered, their anger held, their eyes wary. He spoke of the pyramid, of its purpose, of the stars that guided its form. "You are not just builders," he said, his voice rising, his eyes burning with a fire that seemed to come from the heavens. "You are keepers of Maat, shapers of eternity. Your hands hold the soul of Egypt. Your hearts carry its truth." The men listened, their hands unclenching, their eyes softening, but I saw the doubt linger, the pain that no words could erase. Imhotep found me later, his eyes deep with a knowing that chilled me. "You saw the chamber." "Katie," he said, his voice low, his hand on my shoulder. You felt the truth, but there is more. He led me to the pyramid's base, to a stone marked with a single star, its lines faint but sharp. He pressed it, and a hidden door opened, revealing a passage deeper than the last, its air cold, its walls alive with carvings that seemed to move under my torch. This is the soul of the pyramid, he said, his voice a whisper, his eyes on mine. This is why we build. I followed, my heart pounding, my hands trembling, my soul reaching for a truth that would change me, that would carry me, that would make me whole. The passage descended, the air growing heavier, the carving sharper, their symbols a language I could not read but could feel. I thought of Meret, her faith, her love, her tears for Djoser. I thought of my father, his hands, his songs, his life given to the stones. I thought of the workers, their pain, their doubt, their will to keep building. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our truth. And as I followed Imhotep into the dark, I knew I was close to understanding why, close to touching the divine, close to the eternity we built with every stone, every cut, every song. The passage beneath the Great Pyramid was a vein of darkness, its walls carved with symbols that seemed to pulse under the flickering light of my torch. I followed Imhotep, his staff tapping the stone floor, his robes a shadow that led me deeper into the heart of the pyramid, into a truth I both craved and feared. The air was cold, heavy with the scent of ancient earth, and each step felt like a descent into the realm of the gods, where mortals were not meant to tread. I was Keti, stonecutter of Memphis, a boy whose hands shaped the pharaoh's eternity, whose heart carried the weight of Meret's love, of my father's loss, of a purpose that burned brighter with every step. The pyramid's precision, its stones fitted so tightly they defied time, was a question that had haunted me. And now, in this hidden place, I felt close to an answer. Imhotep stopped before a door, its surface etched with a single eye, the symbol of Horus, its lines so sharp they seemed to watch me. He pressed his staff to it, and the stone gave way, revealing a chamber vast and silent, its ceiling lost in shadow, its walls alive with carvings that told a story older than Egypt. At its center stood a sarcophagus, not yet sealed, its granite surface smooth as the Nile's flow, its edges perfect as the stars. "This is the pharaoh's chamber," Imhotep said, his voice low, his eyes on the sarcophagus. "Here, Khufu's soul will rest, guided by the stars, carried by the precision of your hands." I approached, my torch casting light across the stone, my heart pounding with awe, with fear, with a truth I could not yet name. The carvings on the walls were a map of the heavens, of the earth, of the God's will. I saw the stars, their paths traced in gold, their angles mirrored in the pyramid's form. I saw the Nile, its flow carved in silver, its curves echoed in the chamber's design. I saw Osiris, his eyes bright, his hands holding the balance of Ma'at, the order that held the world together. "The pyramid is Egypt," Imhotep said, his voice a river, his eyes deep with a knowing that chilled me. "Its precision is our vow to the gods, our promise to keep Ma'at, to make the pharaoh eternal, to make Egypt eternal." I felt his words, not just in my mind, but in my blood, in the rhythm of my heart, in the stones I had shaped. I knelt before the sarcophagus, my hands touching its surface, its coolness a reminder of the stones I cut, of the lives given to this dream. "Why us?" I asked, my voice trembling, my eyes on Imhotep. "Why do we bleed for this?" He knelt beside me, his hand on my shoulder, his voice soft but fierce. "Because you are Egypt, Katie. Your hands, your heart, your sacrifice. They are the soul of this land. The pyramid is not just for the pharaoh, but for all of us, for the eternity we build together." I felt a warmth, a spark of understanding, of purpose. And I knew then that the pyramid's precision was not just a demand of the gods, but a gift, a truth that would outlive us all. We left the chamber, the passage closing behind us, the night air sharp against my skin. The pyramid stood above, its stones gleaming under the stars, its presence a weight, a wonder, a vow. Imhotep walked beside me, his silence a space for my thoughts to grow. I thought of Merit, her faith, her love, her tears for Djoser. I thought of my father, his hands, his songs, his life woven into the stones. I thought of the workers, their pain, their doubt, their will to keep building. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our truth. And I felt it now, not as a burden, but as a light, a purpose that carried me. But the camp was a storm, its air thick with anger, with fear, with the weight of too many injuries, too many losses. I found Meret by the river, her face pale, her hands trembling, her eyes wide with a fear I had not seen before. "Katie," she said, her voice breaking, her hand clutching mine. "The workers are planning to stop. They say they'll lay down their tools, refuse to build." My heart sank, my mind racing with the memory of Imhotep's words, of the chamber, of the sarcophagus that waited for the pharaoh's soul. "They can't," I said, my voice low, my heart torn between their pain and the pyramid's purpose. "The gods will not forgive us." Merit shook her head, her tears falling, her voice fierce despite her fear. "They're tired, Ketty. They're broken. They need more than words." more than promises. I held her, her warmth grounding me, her love a shield against the chaos. I thought of Anan, his songs, his faith. I thought of Senan, his commands, his pleas. I thought of Imhotep, his vision, his truth. I knew I had to act to bridge the workers' pain and the pyramid's purpose, to keep the balance, to keep Ma'at. I'll speak to them, I said, my voice steady, my heart resolute. Merit looked at me, her eyes bright, her faith in me a fire that warmed us both. I found the workers gathered near the quarry, their voices loud, their hands clenched, their eyes dark with anger. Anan was there, his hands raised, his voice soft but failing to calm them. Sinan stood at the edge, his face tense, his eyes searching for a way to hold them together. I stepped forward, my heart pounding, my hands empty but for the truth I carried. Listen, I said, my voice clear, my eyes meeting theirs. I know your pain. I've seen the blood, the broken bones, the lives lost. My father died for these stones, and I carry his weight every day. The men grew quiet, their eyes on me, their anger held, their pain a mirror of my own. I've seen the heart of the pyramid. I continued, my voice rising, my heart bared. I've touched the sarcophagus, seen the stars carved in its walls, felt the God's will in its stones. We build not just for the Pharaoh, but for Egypt, for us, for the eternity we hold in our hands. I thought of Imhotep, his tablet, his promise. I thought of Merit, her love, her strength. I thought of the chamber, its carvings, its truth. The men listened, their hands unclenching, their eyes softening, and I felt a spark, not of faith but of unity, of purpose, of a truth we shared. But then a cry broke the air, sharp and desperate, from the direction of the river. I turned, my heart lurching, and saw Meret, her figure small against the water, her hands waving, her voice calling my name. I ran, my feet pounding the sand, my heart racing with fear. She was kneeling beside a boy, his body still, his face pale, his hands clutching a water jug. It was Djoser, the boy we had saved, now fallen again, his breath gone, his life taken by the fever that followed his injury. Merit wept, her hands on his face, her voice a wail that tore through me, through the camp, through the stars above. I knelt beside her, my hands useless, my heart breaking, my soul reaching for the gods, for the truth, for the eternity we built. The pyramid stood in the distance, its stones perfect, its purpose vast, its cost unbearable. I held Meret, her tears wetting my chest, her love a light in the dark. I sang, my voice soft, the song of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that Djoser's soul would find the stars. The workers gathered, their voices joining mine, their hands touching the earth, their hearts one with ours. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our truth. And though its cost was heavy, its purpose was eternal, a vow to the gods, to Egypt, to the light that would never fade. The night was a shroud over Giza, its stars hidden by clouds heavy with the promise of rain. Their light a faint echo of the hope I clung to. I knelt by the river, Merit in my arms, her tears soaking my chest, her sobs a wail that carried the weight of Djoser's death. The boy's body lay still, his hands clutching the water jug, his face peaceful now, as if the gods had taken him gently to the stars. I was Keti, stone cutter of Memphis, my hands shaped by the chisel, my heart broken by loss, my soul tethered to the great pyramid, its stones perfect, its purpose a mystery that both lifted and crushed me. The workers stood around us, their voices soft, their songs of Osiris rising like a prayer, their hands touching the earth, as if to anchor Djoser's soul to the eternity we built. Merit's grief was a tide pulling me under, her love a light that kept me afloat. I held her, my voice joining the workers, singing the chant for the dead, a plea for the gods to guide Djoser to the field of reeds. Go gently, child of the Nile, I whispered, my throat tight, my heart heavy with the memory of my father, of Ptahhotep, of all who had given their lives to the stones. The pyramid loomed in the distance, its silhouette dark against the clouded sky, its precision a silent vow, a question I could not escape. Why did we build so perfectly? Why did the gods demand such sacrifice, such pain? The camp was a storm of sorrow and anger, the workers' voices rising, their hands clenched, their eyes dark with the weight of Djoser's death. Another life lost. One man muttered, his chisel abandoned, his gaze fixed on the pyramid. For what? For a king who does not know our names? I felt his words, sharp as a blade, cutting through the spark of purpose Imhotep had kindled in me. I stood, Merit's hand in mine, her tears drying, her eyes fierce despite her grief. We must hold them together, she said, her voice low, her strength a fire that warmed me. I nodded, my heart torn between her love and the workers' pain, my resolve hardening to bridge the gap, to keep the balance, to keep Ma'at. I found Annan by the quarry, his hands resting on a stone, his eyes deep with a sorrow that mirrored my own. They're breaking, Keti, he said, his voice soft, his gaze on the workers gathered in the shadows. Djoser's death has cracked their faith. I looked at the men, their faces gaunt, their hands empty, their song silenced. I thought of the chamber, the sarcophagus, the carvings that held the stars, the Nile, the gods. I thought of Imhotep's words, his promise that the pyramid was Egypt, that our hands shaped eternity. We need to show them, I said, my voice steady, my heart resolute. We need to make them see the truth. Imhotep appeared at dawn, his presence a quiet storm, his staff tapping the sand, his robes catching the first light. The workers gathered, their anger held, their eyes wary but drawn to him, as if he carried the god's own light. He stood before them, his voice clear, his eyes burning with a fire that seemed to come from the heavens. You mourn Djoser, he said, his words heavy, his gaze touching each man, each heart. You mourn the blood, the pain, the lives given to the stones. But know this, every cut you make, every stone you shape, is a vow to the gods, a promise to Egypt, a path to eternity. The men listened, their hands unclenching, their eyes softening. But I saw the doubt linger, the grief that no words could erase. He turned to me, his eyes finding mine, his voice low, for me alone. Keti, he said, you have seen the heart of the pyramid. Now show them. My heart pounded, my hands trembling, my mind racing with the weight of his command. I stepped forward, Merit at my side, her hand in mine, her strength a shield. I've seen the chamber, I said, my voice rising, my eyes meeting the workers. I've touched the sarcophagus, felt the stars in its walls, seen the truth in its stones. We build not just for the Pharaoh, but for us, for Egypt, for the eternity we hold in our hands. The men murmured, their eyes searching mine, their pain a tide I could feel but not turn. Imhotep led us to the pyramid, to the hidden passage, its entrance a secret kept by the gods. The workers followed, their steps hesitant, their voices silent, their hands touching the stones as if to feel their truth. The passage was dark, its air cold, its walls alive with carvings that glowed under our torches. Imhotep stopped before the sarcophagus chamber, its granite slab gleaming, its carvings a map of the heavens, of the Nile, of Ma'at. This is why we build, he said, his voice a river, his eyes on the workers. This is Egypt. This is eternity. This is you. The men knelt, their hands on the stone, their eyes wide with awe, with sorrow, with a spark of understanding. I knelt beside Merit, her hand in mine, her tears dry now, her eyes bright with the faith that burned brighter than ever. Djoser is here, she whispered, her voice soft, her hand touching the sarcophagus. He's part of this, part of us. I nodded. my throat tight, my heart full with her love, with the truth we shared. The workers sang, their voices rising, the chant of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that their pain was not in vain. I sang with them, my voice steady, my heart one with theirs, with the stones, with the gods. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our truth. And I felt it now, not as a burden, but as a light, a purpose that carried us all. But the unrest lingered, a shadow that clung to the camp, to the quarry, to the stones we shaped. That night, as the stars emerged, I found Meret by the river, her face pale, her hands trembling, her eyes wide with a fear I had not seen since Djoser's fall. "Katie," she said, her voice breaking, her hand clutching mine. "They're talking of leaving, of abandoning the pyramid." My heart sank, my mind racing with the memory of the chamber, of Imhotep's words, of the truth I had felt. "We can't let them," I said, my voice low, my resolve unyielding. "The pyramid is Egypt. Meret, it's us." She nodded, her eyes fierce, her love a fire that warmed us both. I stood before the workers, my heart pounding, my hands empty, but for the truth I carried. "I know your pain," I said, my voice clear, my eyes meeting theirs. "I've lost my father, seen Djoser fall, felt the weight of the stone, but I've seen the heart of the pyramid, felt its truth, its eternity. We build for the gods, for Egypt, for the souls we love." The men listened, their hands unclenching, their eyes softening. And I felt a spark, not of faith, but of unity, of purpose, of a truth we shared. Meret stood beside me, her hand in mine, her voice joining mine in the chant of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that we would endure. The pyramid stood in the distance, its stones perfect, its purpose vast, its cost heavy but holy. I looked at Meret, her eyes bright, her love a light in the dark. I looked at the workers, their hands ready, their hearts one with mine. I looked at the stars, their paths a map, their light a guide. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch the divine, to hold the balance, to make Egypt eternal. And though the cost was great, the truth was greater. A vow to the gods, to the Nile, to the eternity we built with every stone, every cut, every song. The dawn over Giza was a fragile promise, its light soft and pale, as if the sun itself mourned the losses we carried. I stood before the workers, my heart a drumbeat, my hands empty, but for the truth I had seen in the pyramid's hidden chamber, in Imhotep's words, in Meret's love. The quarry was silent, the air thick with the scent of dust, and the weight of Djoser's death, of Ptahhotep's injury, of my father's absence. I was Keti, stonecutter of Memphis, a boy whose hand shaped the pharaoh's eternity, whose soul bore the weight of a purpose that burned brighter than my doubt. The Great Pyramid rose behind us, its stones fitted with a precision that defied time, its purpose a mystery I was beginning to understand, a truth that held us together. Even now, the workers' eyes were on me, their faces gaunt, their hands clenched, their faith cracked but not broken. I felt Merit beside me, her hand in mine, her strength a fire that warmed my resolve. We've lost so much, I said, my voice clear, my heart bared. Djoser, my father, our brothers, our blood. But I've seen the heart of the pyramid, touched its truth, felt its eternity. We build not just for the pharaoh, but for Egypt, for us, for the souls we love, for the gods who watch. The men murmured, their eyes searching mine, their pain a tide I could feel, but would not let drown us. I thought of the sarcophagus, its carvings of stars, of the Nile, of Maat, and I knew our work was holy, our sacrifice eternal. Onan stepped forward, his hands stained with dust, his eyes deep with a wisdom that steadied me. Keti speaks truth, he said, his voice low, his gaze on the workers. The stones are our vow, our song, our soul. We build for the gods, for Egypt, for the balance that holds the world. The men nodded, their hands unclenching, their eyes softening, and I felt a spark, not of faith but of unity, of purpose, of a truth we shared. Merit squeezed my hand, her eyes bright, her love a light that guided me. And we sang, our voices rising, the chant of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that our pain was not in vain. But the day brought new challenges. The sun, a relentless hammer. The quarry, a furnace of dust and sweat. I worked with a fierce rhythm, my chisel steady, my hammer true, my heart carrying the chamber's secrets. Imhotep's vision, Merit's strength. The workers returned to their stones, their songs louder now, their hands finding purpose in the precision we carved. Sinan watched, his voice softer, his eyes seeing not just the stones but the men who shaped them. I looked at the pyramid, its sides smoother, its angles sharper, and felt its pulse, its truth, its eternity. A vow to the gods, to Egypt, to us. Midday brought a shadow, a cry from the river that stopped my heart. I ran, my feet pounding the sand, my breath catching as I saw Merit, her figure crumpled by the water, her basket overturned, her face pale with pain. I knelt beside her, my hands trembling, my voice a plea. "Merit," I said, my heart breaking, my soul reaching for her. She clutched her side, her breath ragged, her eyes wide with fear. "I fell," she whispered, her voice weak, her hand gripping mine. "The rocks I didn't see." I held her, my tears falling, my mind racing with the memory of Djoser, of my father, of all we had lost. I carried her to the healer's tent, her weight light but heavy with my fear, her hand in mine, her love a tether that kept me from breaking. The healer worked quickly, his hands gentle, his voice calm, but his eyes were grim. "She's hurt inside," he said, his words a blade, his gaze on mine. "She needs rest, care, time." I nodded, my throat tight, my heart torn between hope and dread. I stayed with her, her hand in mine, her eyes fluttering, her voice soft as she whispered my name. "Keep building." "Hetty," she said, her breath a struggle, her love a fire that burned through her pain. "For us, for Egypt, for the stars." The camp was quiet that night, the workers' voices low, their prayers for merit rising like smoke to the stars. I sat by her side, the healer's tent dim, the air heavy with the scent of herbs and fear. I thought of Imhotep, his tablet, his promise that the pyramid was Egypt, that our hands shaped eternity. I thought of the chamber, its carvings, its sarcophagus, its truth. I thought of the workers, their pain, their doubt, their will to keep building. I sang, my voice soft, the song of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that merit would heal, that we would endure. Imhotep found me at dawn, his presence a quiet strength, his staff tapping the earth, his eyes deep with a sorrow that mirrored my own. "She is strong, Katie," he said, his voice low, his hand on my shoulder. "But you must be stronger." I looked at him, my heart heavy, my eyes wet with tears. "How?" I asked, my voice breaking, my soul bared. "How do I carry this?" He knelt beside me, his eyes burning with a fire that seemed to come from the gods. "You carry it with love," he said, his voice a river, his words a vow. "You carry it with the stones, with the stars, with the truth of Egypt." He led me to the pyramid, to a new passage, its entrance hidden by a stone marked with the Ankh, the symbol of life. The air inside was cool, the walls carved with scenes of the pharaoh's journey, of the god's embrace, of the balance of Ma'at. At its end was a small chamber, its walls glowing with a light that seemed to come from within, its center holding a single stone, etched with the names of the workers, of my father. of Djoser, of all who had given their lives. This is the soul of the pyramid, Imhotep said, his voice soft, his eyes on mine. Your names, your hands, your hearts, they are eternal. As Egypt is eternal, I touched the stone, its surface warm, its name's a litany of love, of sacrifice, of truth. I saw my father's name, carved with care, his life woven into the pyramid, into Egypt, into eternity. I saw Joseph's name, his youth a light that would never fade. I felt Merit's presence, her love, her strength, her faith that held me together. I wept, not in sorrow but in awe, in understanding, in a truth that burned brighter than the stars. The pyramid was not just for the pharaoh, but for us, for the workers, for the souls we loved, for the Egypt we carried in our hearts. I returned to Meret, her breath steadier now, her eyes opening, her smile faint but real. I held her hand, my heart full, my soul alight with the truth I had found. We're building for us, I whispered, my voice soft. My love a vow, for you, for Djoser, for Egypt. She nodded, her eyes bright, her faith a mirror of the stars. And I knew we would endure, that the pyramid would stand, that its precision was our truth, our eternity, our love. The workers sang outside, their voices rising, their hands ready, their hearts one with mine. The pyramid was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch the divine, to hold the balance, to make Egypt eternal. And I would keep building for Meret, for the stars, for the truth that lived in the stones. The dawn over Giza was a hymn of light, its rays weaving through the desert like threads of gold, illuminating the Great Pyramid, now nearly complete. Its stones a testament to a precision that seemed to hold the stars themselves. I stood at the quarry's edge, my hands worn but steady, my heart full with the truth I had found in the pyramid's hidden chambers. In Imhotep's words, in Meret's love, I was Katie, stonecutter of Memphis, a boy who had shaped the pharaoh's eternity, whose soul carried the weight of loss, of love, of a purpose that burned brighter than the sun. The air was cool, scented with the Nile's breath and the dust of our labor, and I felt the pyramid's pulse, its truth, its eternity, woven into every stone, every cut, every song. Meret was healing, her breath steady now, her eyes bright with the spark of life that had flickered but never faded. I sat by her in the healer's tent, her hand in mine, her smile a light that warmed the shadows of my grief. You kept building, she said, her voice soft, her love a vow that held me together. I nodded, my throat tight, my heart swelling with the memory of Djoser, of my father, of the workers whose names were carved in the pyramid's heart. For you, I said, my voice breaking, my eyes on hers. For Egypt, for the gods, for the truth we carry. She squeezed my hand, her faith a mirror of the stars, her strength a fire that burned through my doubt. The workers were different now, their songs louder, their hands steadier, their eyes lit with a purpose they had seen in the sarcophagus chamber, in the stone etched with their names, their lives, their love. Anan worked beside me, his voice a river, his hands shaping stones with a care that spoke of faith, of truths, of eternity. Sinan moved among us, his voice softer, his eyes seeing not just the stones but the men who gave them life. The unrest had faded, not gone but transformed, a tide turned by the truth we had found, by the unity we had forged, by the pyramid that stood as a vow to the gods, to Egypt, to us. I returned to the quarry, my chisel finding its rhythm, my hammer striking with a force I drew from Merit's recovery, from Imhotep's vision, from the chamber's secrets. Each cut was a prayer, each edge a promise, each stone a word in the language of creation. I thought of the sarcophagus, its granite smooth, its carvings a map of the stars, of the Nile, of Ma'at. I thought of the stone in the hidden chamber, its name's a litany of sacrifice, of love, of truth. I thought of my father, his hands guiding mine, his life woven into the pyramid, into Egypt, into eternity. I sang, my voice steady, the song of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that we would endure. Amhotep came to me at dusk, his presence a quiet strength, his staff tapping the sand, his eyes deep with a wisdom that seemed to hold the heavens. You have seen the truth. Keti, he said, his voice low, his hand on my shoulder. You have carried it, shared it, made it live. I looked at him, my heart full, my soul alight with the purpose I had found. Why did we build so perfectly? I asked, my voice soft, my question no longer one of doubt but of wonder. He smiled, a smile that held the Nile, the stars, the gods, because perfection is the language of the divine. Keti, because the pyramid is Egypt's soul, and your hands have made it eternal. He led me to the pyramid's summit, not yet capped, its stones rising to meet the sky, its angle sharp as the truth we carried. The desert stretched below, the Nile a silver thread, the stars a map above. I stood beside Imhotep, my hands empty but full, my heart one with the workers, with Merit, with Egypt. This is your legacy, he said. his voice a river, his eyes on the pyramid. Your names, your hands, your hearts, they are here. In the stones, in the stars, in the eternity you have built, I felt a warmth, not from the sun, but from within, a spark of understanding, of love, of a truth that would outlive us all. The workers gathered below, their voices rising, their songs a chorus that filled the desert, the sky, the ages. Merit joined me, her steps slow but steady, her hand in mine, her eyes bright with the faith that had carried us through. It's beautiful, she said, her voice soft, her gaze on the pyramid, its stones gleaming under the stars, its form perfect, its purpose eternal. I nodded, my tears falling, not in sorrow but in awe, in love, in the truth we shared. It's us, I said, my voice steady, my heart full. It's Egypt. Forever. The pyramid was nearly complete, its capstone waiting, its chambers ready, its soul alive with the names of those who had built it. I thought of Djoser, his youth a light in the stars. I thought of my father, his hands a memory in the stones. I thought of the workers, their pain, their sacrifice, their will to keep building. I thought of Merit, her love, her strength, her faith that had held me, that had held us all. The pyramid was more than stone, more than a tomb, more than a dream. It was us, our hands, our hearts, our will to touch the divine, to hold the balance, to make Egypt eternal. The stars burned above, their light a guide, their paths a vow. I stood with Merit, with Imhotep, with the workers, our hands linked, our voices one. We sang the chant of Osiris, of rebirth, of the promise that our work, our love, our truth would endure. The pyramid stood, its stones perfect, its angles true, its purpose a song that would sing through the ages, carried by the Nile, by the stars, by us. I looked at Merit, her eyes bright, her love a light in the dark. I looked at the pyramid, its form eternal, its soul ours. I looked at the stars, their light a promise, their truth a vow. And so, the Great Pyramid was built with such precision that modern science remains astonished, because it was not just stone, but the soul of Egypt, the hands of its people, the love that bound them, the truth that made them eternal.